Hey, if you're listening right now, I want you to take a deep breath. I know this is hard. Maybe your child is pulling away, saying things that sting, or seems caught in the middle of conflict, and it's leaving you feeling helpless and frustrated. You're not alone, and it's not your fault. That's exactly why I created the Countering Alienation course. It's a practical step-by-step program to help you recognize alienating behaviors, respond in a way that protects your relationship, and rebuild the trust with your child, even when it feels impossible. This is not about fighting your co-parent. It's about keeping your connection strong, staying grounded, and giving your child the stability and love they need. You deserve tools and guidance that you can actually use, and your child deserves the relationship only you can give. Check out the registration link in the show notes. This is the right move. You got this. Welcome to the Beyond Divorce Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, good day to you, everyone. We're back here on the podcast, or the pod as we call it, right?
On the pod.
And we are actually talking about a really important topic. It's funny because it comes up so much, but it's one of those things like I don't think about it a lot in therapy until someone brings it up, or they bring up a grandparent or an aunt and uncle. But we're talking about the extended family. So when a divorce happens, what's supposed to happen with the extended family? Do the kids divorce them too, or is there, how does everybody fit into this dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, not only the extended family, but specifically like the grandparents, right? Because
Right.
if you're working with kids, and I think we don't think about it often because we usually don't pull them in. Because if we're working with litigation, they're usually not a part of it if it's a clear cut,
Well,
that situation.
I've learned that sometimes the grandparents are funding it.
Oftentimes, I have found that that's actually the case, that they can't afford it, so they ask the grandparents, so the grandparents get, skin in the game a little bit. And so when they have skin in the game and they're funding stuff, well, do they get a say? How much strings do they get to pull? What does that look like?
Good point. So where are we going to start with this?
Well,
That's what I want to know.
I think we first start by just breaking down, kind of reminding the listeners about family systems, right?
Let's do it.
So typically when we talk about family system, at least in our office, we're usually talking about, the nuclear family, mom, dad, or some variation, and stepmom, whatever, some variation, and children, and there's that.
Parents, step-parents, and kids usually.
Right. Typically, that's kind of the immediate family. But we know that family is more than that. Family includes aunts, uncles, grandparents.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I always enjoyed seeing my grandparents and spending time with my grandparents. Right? Nobody made food better than my grandmother.
I call my grandma mom, just so you know. Yeah, like I'm very close to my grandparents.
Right. They have a special place, and to not include them or not think about them in the family system or as an important resource would be foolhardy. Like, we just wouldn't think about that. And I think oftentimes in our work, we don't typically pull them in unless we really need to or unless something's going on. But I mean, grandparents get brought up all the time in sessions.
Grandparents are a great angle for, when I was a child, so I'll give you a kind of funny one. My dad remarries, and I don't not that I didn't like my stepmom, but I was struggling with my stepmom and, my dad, whatever. Well, you know who I would go to?
Your grandmother?
I went to my grandma. I went to my grandma and grandpa. And I taught, and what's funny is they never, I'm thinking about how well they did. They never, ever gave an opinion that was negative or hate, or it was always about, being kind and loving and forgiving, and they hurt. They could tell that they would hurt for me, because they knew I was struggling, but they were just always pumping the positive in. You know what I mean? They were just pouring positivity and love. This is the thing I think. I think the immediate family, the extended family, can be a real help to building good character in your children. So when you think about raising kids, you're raising a child who's building a character trait on how they treat others and other people. And so if you do a good job and you have good family, you have good aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever, and you're bringing them around your kid, it is a huge influence on the person and the type of person they can become.
Right.
So I don't want to limit the extended family. I think it's the opposite. I'd let the extended family come in. Don't make the kids feel like they have to divorce their grandmas and grandpas and aunts. Like they have to. It's almost like it's the natural tendency for a child. Have you seen this, Armando? Is when there is a divorce, they feel like they have to pick a side.
Yeah, they feel like there are sides. I ask that all the time. Do you feel like there are sides? Do you feel like you have to pick a side? And most of the time, my clients say yes.
What do you do with that?
I think we discuss why they feel that way.
Yeah.
About what's going on, what makes you think that way.
And you're not saying that the parents have told them they have to pick a side. You're saying that they literally just feel.
Now, some cases, some parents do tell them they have to pick a side. Like, it is very clear. That does happen. But I will say, more often than not, the children just feel that way. But if the kids feel that way, in-laws can feel that way too. Because if you think about how long some marriages last, 20 years, 30 years, that's a lifetime. Well, this person has come into every holiday.
Yeah.
They're the parent of my grandbaby. And so when there's a divorce, those same loyalty binds do impact. Well, like now, can I talk to my former son-in-law? Can I talk to, like, they're sick? Do I reach out? I heard that, my ex's mom is sick. Do I reach out? What do I do? Because I did care for them. I love them. We were a family. We spent all these holidays, all these great memories together. Where do we fit in? And so just like kids sometimes, grandparents, in-laws, aunts, uncles, whatever, can feel that same way.
I think you said it. The word is loyalty bind. That's really what changes for the extended people, right? Gosh, it's going to sound weird, personal stuff, but my aunt and my uncle divorced over my uncle making a very poor choice in the marriage. If I see my uncle, I'll still say, hey, I'll say his name. I'll wave at him. The only difference is I'm not like going and like, let's hang out or let's, let me invite you over. I'm not doing any of those things. Right. So, but I can still be kind and respectful and everything else. But that's what happens is there's this weirdness that gets created because of the loyalty binds.
Yes.
And the thing that I would encourage people to do is the way you get rid of the weird is just go be who you are.
Yes.
If you're kind and you're loving and you're a good person, then just go be that person, even to those people.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It says more about you than them when you're still you.
And I think that's the weird thing is that you realize you have to redefine the relationship, but you don't have to redefine it that much. To your point. Because what do I do now? Like I'll speak talking about personal stuff. I think when my parents divorced when I was a little bit older, but my parents had been married for they were married for 20 some odd years and some change. I don't even know. Yes. I was trying to think how old I was and kind of that. You figure that out, listeners.
I'm doing the math.
Do that math. Wait it up. Yeah, that was 20 something. So, but my cousins on my mom's side, they still talk about my dad. They still call him uncle. They still mention him. They still call uncle, and they'll wish him happy birthday on Facebook, and he'll wish them happy birthday. He's better at it than I am, honestly, on Facebook. But I think it's just redefining what does that look like.
Yeah.
And when you're with somebody for that long, you are part of their family. What does that look like? And I don't think erasing them from your life or your history makes sense either. And especially not if there's kids involved.
Redefining, what those roles and those binds look like. And you're right. When a divorce happens, there's an automatic shift, right, into how all the relationships now look.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example. And this is what I hope for. God forbid, I don't want my kids to get married and have to go through divorce. That's tough. But let's say I have 2 daughters. They get married. They have children. They get divorced. I don't know if I can be I don't hope for myself. I can't have hatred toward the father of the children, right? My grandchildren, because that's my grandchildren's dad.
Right.
And it's one of those like, how can I maintain who it's the best way to do it. I'm still going to be who I am regardless of who you are.
Yes.
Makes sense? So like if you've done a horrendous thing and this family broke down because of the choices you've made, whatever else, hating you doesn't change what happened.
Right.
So what I'm going to do instead is I'm still going to be the best version of me, but there may be a little bit more boundaries built in. There may be an arm's length from you kind of thing. That's different. I remember my uncle, I told you my uncle divorced. My uncle reached out to me and he asked if he could come spend a Thanksgiving with us. And I remember thinking to myself, like, my cousins, his kids, are going to be at the Thanksgiving and they love their dad. And so I was caught. I was like, would I say no? What do I do? I mean, he's always come to those things when I've had him, and I think he has a great time when he comes. And so I remember what I said to him. I said, hey, look, I said, of course I would be, I'm not opposed to you coming to Thanksgiving, but I do have a problem. And the problem I'm running into is your ex-wife, my aunt, who I'm blood related to, is going to be there. And I don't want it to be weird for your kids. I don't want it to be weird for my aunt or you. And so if you and her agree that it's okay, then of course she can be there. But if she's not going to agree that it's an okay thing, I'm sorry, man, but that's the position I'm in.
Yep. I think, and
I hope you can understand that.
And I think that's the point is, as if you are an in-law, if you are an aunt, uncle, or somebody else and your family's going through divorce, I take the lead of like, what is that? How is that other, how is your relative who's going through the divorce, how are they handling things, right?
Yeah.
What kind of take that lead? But sometimes when you take their lead, if it's a contentious divorce and there's conflict, maybe don't take that lead that way and add to the fire. But sometimes it happens. Sometimes there's a danger to be sucked into the conflict.
Yeah.
And I see it. I see it all the time. What we were talking about earlier about funding divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen it. You walk into a hearing and you're greeted by the person that you've worked with because they're there and they're like, oh, these are my parents. And you're like, oh, hi. And they're like, oh, we've heard so much about you. And I'm like, oh, have you? Hi.
Have you? Hi.
Why are you talking about the therapist? I don't love that. Right. But I mean, they're there and they're a part because they're also supporting their child through this divorce also. Right. And so they can, if I have that loyalty and somebody hurts you, Michael, right? Like,
yes.
And I'm loyal to you and I'm like, how dare you? I'm going to be that guy in the back, be like, yeah, you're not going to do that to my buddy. I'm going to get you, right? Like that loyalty there. It's the same thing with family. And so if there is a contentious divorce, sometimes family falls into that and they add to it. And so what I would encourage listeners is kind of take a step back and say, okay, do I really want to get involved in this? What does this look like for me? I'm here for the kids. Like, you know what? I was not in their marriage. I was not in that relationship. They've always been kind to me. We always had a great time at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, Halloween, whatever holidays you're celebrating, right? What are those things? And so be careful to kind of take a step back and really say like, okay, what is my role in this?
Yes.
And am I feeding the fire? Am I feeding the hate or not?
And the way that they can navigate whether or not they're feeding the hate is how? Well, what's a couple things, maybe one or two things they can do to?
I mean, I think if you really, communication, one, right? Really have that open communication, just like you did, like, hey, what would you like me to do here? What's going on? It's no different than when, you're with best friends with a couple and they break up and you're like, I got to pick one. Who do I keep? Right?
Which one of these two?
Which do I keep?
I've seen that in movies, and I think it's so true, though.
It's very true.
We have a couple of friends.
The difference is in family, you kind of, not always, right? Not always, but there is a automatic thought that you keep the one that you're blood related to. Not always. I have seen it not always work out that way, but.
Yeah, I've seen grandparents testify against their own kids.
I have too.
And that's always a tough one. I can't imagine having to do that, with your child. But I think for a lot of people, I think accountability seems to come up a lot. And I think with our family systems and everything else, the problem with I used to do this. I said, when you bring in people into your bubble, so let's say your bubble's your marriage, right, and your kids, and when you guys are struggling in your marriage, you probably go to your mom or your dad or your sister or your brother or maybe a family member, aunt, uncle, whoever you're close to, and you talk to them about your struggles in your marriage. So they don't get to hear about the healing. They hear about the struggle in most cases. So now their mind is set on this struggle that you went through. It makes sense? So when the crap hits the fan, as they say, or the thing blows up, well, now they have this view of this other person because you've shared so much with them about this person, and they can't take it out of there. And so when you bring too many people in, and you use your extended family as your own counselors, you can really muddy the water.
And it makes it where, like, you bring people in, they're hurt for you, so they want to be that bulldog. They want to be that big gun for you. And so that's where, be careful where, I've seen in-laws, aunts, uncles overstep and get involved.
Yeah, and that feeds that hate, as you say.
And that feeds that hate. I mean, I've had situations where one parent was on supervised visitation, didn't say anything about the grandparents, but when the grandparents had the kids, because the other parent was like, hey, yeah, you know what? Take care of the kids. They miss you. You spend time with them. Well, they're right on FaceTime with that other parent that's supposed to be supervised, not supposed to have contact with, and so they overstep, right? They don't think there's anything wrong, or they're sharing information. There's not supposed to be contact. It's supposed to only be through therapy or supervised or whatever, and they're sharing information. They're taking a call, putting it on speaker, and the kids are hearing that parent's voice, and it's impacting them, they're emotionally. And I don't think grandparents or extended family mean to do that. I think typically there's not malicious intent, but understand that there are things in place for a reason, because sometimes the kids need a little bit of insulation from that. And you may not think that because you don't know everything, and they're your blood related family, and you're like, not my brother.
Yeah.
Not my son.
Yeah, I think there's not enough credence and not enough love given to the extended family, what they go through too. I feel bad for the extended members also. I mean, they're not directly in it, but they're impacted by it. It's like they're an innocent bystander.
So, sometimes they're not so innocent either, though, Michael. I mean, No.
I agree. This is my point. I mean, this is why it's so convoluted, because sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, and we don't know the role they play, in some cases. But, I had a case. Let me say it this way. I've got a situation where I've had kids come in, and the parents don't get along, and so the kids, of course, had to pick a side. And in this particular side, they're with mom. Well, mom's family, meaning mom's parents, don't like that either. And so what ends up happening is these kids, if at any point in time they are to start having this relationship or building towards something with dad, it's almost as if they're being disloyal to the entire side of their family. You see what I'm saying? Like,
and that's part of the causation of when those in-laws or that extended family, it's the loyalty bond, right? It becomes so important that, and some families are like that, right? I mean, and it takes all kinds. I'm not judging anybody, anything like that, because there's benefit to that also in terms of having a strong, close-knit family. But I think a lot of it comes from fear and grief, because this family that we thought, this connection we had, I'm also losing this family member. You're divorcing this person who I had a bond with, and we're losing that. And so I'm hurt. And so that hurt kind of comes out, and you can impact them. And so I've invited grandparents before if I thought that it was important that, hey, you're playing a role in this. Would you guys be okay if I had a session with the grandparents and they come in and do it? I've had dads and moms say, you know what, if you want to see the kids, or you want to spend overnight, or you want to take them on a trip or something, first you have to see the therapist, and we all have to be on the same page on what that looks like, so that there's clear boundaries, clear communications. Again, redefining the boundaries and making it clear, right? What do you say about clarity?
Clear as kind.
And so I think it's also important when you're redefining things, like making sure that things are clear.
100%. And I see where you're going with those boundaries, and I see here you made a note about keeping it kid focused.
Yes.
When doing that. So explain more about what that looks like.
Yeah, I think when we're redefining the boundaries is, what are we doing for the kids? Kind of like your example of saying, like, hey, your kids are going to be here. I don't want it to be awkward or uncomfortable for them, because this is a holiday for all of us, but also for them. Like, They're innocents. They truly are innocent in this. And so do we want to make them pick sides? Do we want them to feel that way? So let's really think about what's in the best interest of the kids. And of course, we're going to disagree on that sometimes, but if we really think about that, it will help us to kind of take a step back and not get involved. And I'm talking as whether I'm an extended family member or even if I'm a parent, like think about that.
You know, most of us don't hate who people are. We hate what they did.
Right. We're upset.
Yep. And I think that's the thing with humans is we're all flawed. And if we start looking at people going, I don't like what they do, but that doesn't mean you don't have to like them. The problem is we match with what they do with who they are. And if we are who we are, we're never focused on becoming. I tell people all the time, people can't change. I don't have a job. So what I'm really getting into and saying all that, Armando, is saying like, this is why it's important for the extended family to really stay in a good place with them. Like if you don't know where to go, then just be neutral.
Yes.
Don't give them a negative opinion. Just stay neutral. Just be like, you know, that I wasn't in that, so I don't know what that was like for you guys. And that's that neutral ground. I'm not. I don't really have an opinion on that. It's kind of a neutral ground, because what happens is you, and kind of like I did with my uncle. That is, without my uncle, I don't have my two cousins,
right?
Who I love immensely. I love my cousins, and I'm not going to be mean to him. I know probably a lot more about what happened because of the conversations I've had with my aunt, but that does not going to influence the fact that I'm going to be mean to this person.
Right.
Okay. Now, if this person is deliberately trying to hurt me, hurt my aunt, hurt his kids, I don't know where I'm going to go with that. Like, hey man, you're going to have to back up a little bit, you know, whatever. But that's not his goal. It's changed the dynamics of like, if I see him hanging out at my grandma's or see him at the house, I'm kind of like, what's he doing around here? But I'm not going to sit there and treat him that way.
Right.
I'm just going to be like, what's up? And I see you. I hadn't seen you in a while.
I also think, to your point, is thinking about how does that, if I'm hurt, like if I'm the parent and my ex-in-laws are talking bad about me or saying things, like I could react and say, oh, well, your grandmother, she's this, and what you don't know about your grandpa, he does this, and they're just using you and they're using their money or whatever.
Yeah.
Be very careful about doing that. That is still that child's grandparents. And again, grandparents get to love on their kids, they get love on their grandkids, and they do. And it's a special bond. Don't try and taint that or ruin that. And don't say, oh, your mom's mom or your mom's dad, because even that can kind of have negative connotation. Your grandmother, right? Your grandpa, right? You can use those words. It's okay.
You know, one of my favorite questions I usually ask a lot too, I don't ask it enough, I don't think, but it is, so that a person tells me, so the moms tell me the grievance that dad had, or my parents feel the same way about whatever, you know, so they're talking about the grandparents are kind of aligned with their own kid. But one of the things I like to ask is, have they apologized? Because, you know, they may say, oh, they apologized, but they keep doing it. Okay, but have they apologized for this last grievance? Because to me, it's like, if my uncle, which he did, I think he apologized to my grandparents, but like with all the people in the family, if he said, look, I know you guys weren't directly involved, but you're still family. I'm sorry for some choices I made. And I know ultimately it's kind of created a weirdness because, you know, me and my wife, your aunt, aren't together anymore. I would respect him for that. Do I require it? Absolutely not. You didn't directly do it to me, but you've now put us all in a position, right, where there's that weirdness where, like, I must have made you feel comfortable enough that you could have called me on Thanksgiving knowing you were divorced to my aunt, and you thought you could come hang out. So I'm glad that I was able to create that for you to be able to feel like you could ask me. But I know that you didn't get the, yes, come on over. You got the, hey, I'm not sure how to approach this, so let me just explain it this way. If my aunt is okay with it and it doesn't create anything for her or the kids, I'm absolutely okay with it.
Right.
And that was not because I wasn't making it about me. I think that's the gift here. If you want to navigate this stuff better as an extended family, quit making it about you.
I also think having that conversation, if you feel like, if you had, so in that example, well, I'll use an example. In my own family, like, again, my parents were married for several years. My uncle, my mom's brother, my uncle, and my dad were pretty close, right? They were, and
The brothers.
The brothers, right? There was a divorce, and so I can't remember. It was early on, and like my uncle reached out to my dad, or my dad reached out to I don't know. they kept me out of it, thank God, right? Like they had enough sense to do that at that point, right? At that point they did. And so there was an issue that I got whiff of because, families talk, that my mom was upset and hurt. And so if that ever happens to you, if you find on the other side of like, my family betrayed me because they're talking to my ex, have open communication with them about it, saying, hey, this is how I felt, this is what's going on, and be open to what they have to say, because just because you divorced that person, does that mean they did too? And have that dialogue about that also, because, family is blood, yes, but it's also a little bit more than that. And when you've spent 15, 20 Christmases with somebody and all of a sudden they're not there anymore, memories are going to come up.
Well, and I know we're getting close to time. I'll share a really interesting story about a loyalty bind. 17-year-old kid, this is years ago, comes in to see me. And it was a reunification case I had between him and his dad. And long story short, mom you could tell, mom came in with animosity, toward dad. Like she was just, like despised this man. It was apparent. It wasn't even, she didn't even try to hide it, And so here's this kid trying to do this reconciliation with his dad, reconciling his relationship because he's kind of avoiding dad, doesn't talk to dad, all these things. He has an individual session with me, and I'm really proud of this. He's an adult now, but real proud of him because he just pretty much said to me, he's like, Mr. Flores, if I have a relationship with my dad, I'll hurt my mother. And I said, how's that fair to you? And very, very quickly he said, it's not. Like he knew, it's not fair to me to have to reject my dad, right, so that I don't hurt my mom. He said, but what you have to understand is when my dad cheated on my mom with her sister, okay, talk about a loyalty bind, right? It created a problem in my entire family. So my grandma, which is the mom, is trying to help sisters maintain their relationship after what happened that dad did. And sister did. Right?
I was going to say, it takes two, but yes.
I get it, yeah, for sure. And dad had apologized, according to the child, his dad has apologized. Like, I was wrong. I know I did wrong. Obviously, that's why we're not together with your mom. But mom is mad at sister. Mom is mad at dad. Mom is like, she's feeling it from every angle. So the kid's like, the last thing I want to do, right, is put another layer on my mom by having a relationship with you. Well, now she's mad at me and hurt. So she's gotten hurt by her son, got hurt by her husband, got hurt by her sister. So the kid looks at me, and you can see he was stuck, and he just said, it's a loyalty bind, is what it was. And he looked at me and he said, I want you to tell my dad that when I turn 18, I'm going to find him. I'm going to seek him out. And I'm not big on speaking for the kids. I want them to use their own voices. And so I said, I can help you have that conversation, but I think that should come from you. And I'm going to tell you what this kid did. This kid reached out to his dad, asked him to meet him. They went to a park, sat there for 4 hours. And he talked to his dad about his plan and his reasons and why. And dad scheduled time to come meet with me and talk to me about it. And dad told me everything his kid said and asked for. Dad was devastated. And I said, well, I'll have one meeting with you and your son together and kind of clear this up. So long story short, the way that ended was kiddo's going to reach back out to dad as an adult. But while he was a child, he wasn't going to hurt his mother. And he knew it was unfair. It was unfair to his dad because he loved his dad. Like he wasn't judging dad based on who his dad was, but, what his dad did. And, he said, my dad made a mistake. And I that kid to me is the reason that things probably worked out. And if mom was going to reject him for loving his dad, you got to remember dad made a choice that hurt his marriage. And the kid is the determining factor of who his dad is. That's his dad.
Right.
And so hopefully mom didn't reject kid, but I could see that kid probably having a relation with his dad almost in secret as an adult for a little while until he could develop enough courage with mom and see mom settle down that he could say, hey, mom, just so you know, dad and I still talk. But the reason I'm bringing all that up is because things like people don't realize, I haven't, and it's been many years since I've talked about this. When a divorce happens, it's like a shock wave. It's almost like, what do we call those? You have an earthquake and then you have the
aftershocks.
That's what I feel like for the extended family. They're the aftershocks, right?
It changes the whole family system. And I think even in that situation, if kids have a neutral person that's not mom and dad, because especially if it's ugly or there's a custody modification and it's ugly, those kids, they feel like they have to pick a side. If you're an extended family member, if you're a grandparent and you can be that person that's neutral, that's not going to talk about it, that's not going to badmouth anybody, you're doing such a great service and a great resource for that child.
Yes.
And so putting the kid first and letting them do that. And also for your child, if you're a grandparent, because you're not feeding into that hate, you're not feeding into that either. And you're just that's what I would encourage the listeners to think about. How can I do that? And then also, if you're a parent and you're going through a divorce, it's important that relationship that child has with their grandparents on that other side is also important. And as long as it's healthy, it's stable, I think it's important that they maintain that.
And I'll just finish with this too. I'm so glad you said all that. I think the thing I want the listeners to kind of walk away from this is I want you guys to have that conversation with your extended family and be very clear with them that their job is to love the child and not to make the child feel they have to pick a side or pick your side or anything. They just get to love the kid. And if they have opinions that are negative in nature, keep them to themselves or share them with the adult only, but not for the child. And it's probably better that if you do feel that way, just to stay neutral. So either pour in the love or stay neutral.
Yep.
Those are your options. And I think if you have that conversation with your family and say, this is what I expect. I know I'm going through a divorce. There's a lot of factors here, but my expectation for all of you is to love the child and to stay neutral when it comes to your opinions. And if you can do that for me, you actually have protected your kid with your extended family. And I agree with you. And so that would be my give back to the listeners and say, this is what I would encourage. So it was a good topic, man.
Love it.
Yeah, it was good. Is there anything else you want to say?
I think it's it. I mean, I think there's a lot. There's still, I mean, if you have any questions, listeners, I mean, families can be really messy. Extended families can be even messier. So if you have questions or comments, listeners, please feel free to write in, leave a comment, let us know, and we'll respond as best we can.
I'm good with it because I learn more too from when you bring that stuff to us. It helps me understand the dynamics better as well. So I agree with you. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Keep moving forward, and until next time.